We not. You ready, Ron?
Yes, sir, if you are.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It is Monday, June the 9th, a little after 6 p.m. So we'll get started here and see if we have any questions. Anybody questions or uh concerns about anything we've talked about? Well, I have something if nobody else has anything. Uh I'm I was looking at something earlier this afternoon talking about sending troops to California. If you've been keeping up with that, but there's a lot of chaotic stuff going on, because one of the things I thought about, I looked up some scripture looking at signs of the time, and I want to talk about that a little bit tonight if we get to it. But what are signs? My question to us is, uh, instead of looking for the signs, are we the sign? Are we the sign of the times? This is new. This is what we're doing is new in the earth, at least for uh, this this 21st century. And so I just think that's kind of interesting, looking at the signs. But certainly what we see going on around us are signs if your eyes are open. So uh, any thoughts or questions about some of the chaotic stuff that we see going on right now?
I would like for others to speak about what they see, after which I would like to speak.
Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. This is GC.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, Ron, when you mentioned in terms of just our thoughts about what we, are seeing or bear witness to,
Hmm.
one of the things that I thought about, sometimes we always say and we put it out in the macro, we need to pray for our leaders.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I, come to give it more thought about that, it's like you saying, we are the leaders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we need to be conscientious about not so much looking at it from the social media or from what we so have been accustomed to when we think about leadership, but being able to realize that, we have the power to change situations and circumstances and attitudes. And not so much that we have to look at it that one person individually has to do it, but I think in the macro, when we collectively come together for the purpose of a desire, what I mean, like you were saying, we are the leaders. And so it all starts with us, if that resonates anyway. I'm done.
It does indeed, George. I couldn't agree more. And I want to include that thought into if we get into the scriptures looking at this, because it talks about Jesus, the disciples came to him, and also the Pharisees and scribes came to him asking for signs of the times. So are you the truth? Are we the truth that everybody's looking for a sign? Are we the sign? But we'll get into that if we have time a little bit. But anyone else? What do you see going on? What do you think about what's going on?
Uh,
Hey, Ron, is
Yes,
that the same as when is that the same as when John sent someone to Jesus and asked him, "Are you the one?" Or we have to look for another? Is that what we doing now?
sir.
hold it for a moment, Charles. Okay.
Okay.
This is
Aren't we the?
Vermel. I
Uh-oh.
I concede. Go
Hey,
ahead.
isn't we the one? Well, not us, but the people. They the one that's causing all the disturbances going on. So Would it be just like Ron said? Are we are the sign? I'm the
Vermeer?
Good evening, everyone. I guess I'm seeing it from a physical eye. I feel like we're in the midst of repeating history, and though I do believe it's needed to bring about the change we've been discussing all along, right now what I see is a lot of events are equating to when Hitler started his reign, his era of time. So that's kind of where I am today.
I like the phrase history repeating itself. I got a theory on that too. I got a lot of theories, but I got a theory on that. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. Anyone else?
Um, what I see, first of all, I don't believe that we're the signs of the time.
Okay.
I believe we are the ones who interpret the signs of the time, what it means. Where are we? We're in a good place. How do we know that? Because of the signs that we are seeing. Why are the troops in Los Angeles? In order for this country to be totally deconstructed, it appears as though it has to be on the verge of becoming a police state before it gets to that place where people, when I say people, the people, people of European descent realize where this country is, what it's on the brink of, before any of them begin to do anything positive to make every effort to sustain what they call democracy. We are the reason that there were no police actions in the street. We are the reason that there was no National Guard called out. Before I get into that, please take a thought, think about this. The places where the raids are primarily taking place are blue states. New York, New Jersey, California, Massachusetts, blue states. Because the intent is to push this idea of removing immigrants from the country to a place where the majority of the people who voted for Trump embrace whatever he does. And right now, 54% of the country are in agreement with what he's doing in relationship to removing immigrants from this country. 54%. The messaging is awesome. And I'm talking about the messaging of Trump's administration. They sold this on the basis of removing criminals. And anyone who is not of European descent is already criminalized before any act. They're simply criminalized because they're not of European descent. And with this move in blue states, the Republican base is pushing this very strong. Why is it that we have not seen major raids in South Carolina? With everywhere you turn, where there is construction going on, you are seeing people of Hispanic descent. Doesn't matter to me whether you're Puerto Rican, I'm sorry, whether you are a Cuban or whether you're from South America, it doesn't matter to me. If you speak Spanish, you are Hispanic. And it is the Hispanics who overwhelmingly boasted about putting Trump in office. And now there is regret by some of them, but not all of them. The reason it is not regret by all of them is because they think they are safe, because they hold positions. Like Rodriguez from Texas, he's in the House of Representatives, but his friends are not. His family's not. So they think they're safe, so they are embracing what's happening. When this administration realized that they would not be able, they did not want to, neither would they be able to attack white people, people of European descent, the way they would attack us of African descent. They waited until they had an opportunity to go after people of color. No better place to do that than Los Angeles, a blue state, a huge population of Hispanics in LA. And to raid Home Depot in LA and Hispanic communities creates the kind of chaos that we saw in the aftermath. And this is exactly what they wanted. It would not surprise me. Matter of fact, I believe it with everything in me that it was not the Hispanics who were demonstrating who started the fires. I believe with everything in me that they were MAGA folk who were brought in there, as it was with Black Lives Matter, to do damage in order to justify bringing in the National Guard. The National Guard has not been called out without the permission of the governor since 1965. The National Guard are a precursor for bringing the military in. The only way that the military can be brought in based upon law is for a declaration of the Insurrection Act or institution of the Insurrection Act, which says that military forces can be used for insurrections, rebellions, etc. And that is the reason that he has Marines on standby. Otherwise, the law does not permit the military to perform police actions on the soil of the United States. So why is all this taking place? This is a strong push towards two things. One, getting that bill passed in Congress because they are asking for an increase of funds for the immigration department. And two, so martial law can be instituted and before the elections. And the elections be, what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody help me. Postpone until after martial law is lifted. if martial law goes into effect and is not challenged, then the expectation is for this to end up being a dictatorship. And it will be that until people of European descent begins to fight against it. It matters not what Hispanics do or what Africans do, because they are simply going to exterminate us. They're going to kill us. And all that they don't kill, they're going to put in jail. And you say they don't have enough jails. Well, back in the 60s, they would arrest us, not me personally, of course, but us as Africans, and they put us in pens after they fill up the grounds of RFK Stadium. So don't be so naive as to believe that this is only going to happen in California. California is simply the test case. And as Gavin Newsom sues the administration and loses at any level of the judiciary, then it's going to escalate, it meaning the takeover of the National Guard is going to escalate. They're not going to do it in red states yet, because they're going to deal with the blue states in order to get the support of the red states. And the goal is to label Democrats, the woke, as insurrectionists. And once martial law is declared, you don't get the right of due process. And your home can be raided and you can be arrested on probable cause based on anything they want it to be. You will not be able to move through your communities without going through checkpoints if they decide to go that far. So that is the reason that they're currently in Los Angeles. There are going to be people of European descent who's going to be out there with the Hispanics. And for the most part, we're not going out there. You may see 2 or 3 here or there, but we're not going out there because we know that we are the primary targets. And this, when we talk about this being one of the signs of the time, this is pointing to the dissolution of this country. It is devolving into chaos in order to create an environment where order can only be brought through a strong man dictator. And that dictator is the face of the dictator is Trump, but the dictator is actually Stephen Miller. And no one on this earth is more ruthless than Stephen Miller and Netanyahu. So this sign tells us that we are closer to balance than ever before. We have nothing to fear, and believing and knowing who we are and embracing the reality of being guided by the ancestors, we know that regardless of what is taking place, it is for our benefit. It is for the benefit of humanity. And never forget that there is no way that this magnitude of chaos could ever have been brought into this amount of chaos could never have been brought in this country unless there were those available to mitigate it. And the mitigation of this chaos is not going to come from the barrel of a gun. It's going to come from the realm of spirituality. There is no doubt in my mind that that's where we are currently. We have a mission that's laid out before us. It is time for us to be who we are or join the chaos. There is no gray line. What am I saying? There is no way that you can be half pregnant and half not. There's no way that you could be half Elohim and half not. You cannot have one foot in religion and the other foot in spirituality. All of these side discussions that we get involved in or get caught up in, leave them alone. They're not important. What is important? And what's important is staying the course of bringing balance to this earth. That's what's important. What's important is closing your eyes and looking in the mirror and seeing God. What is important is refrain from making efforts to give the universe a timeline or to seek one. It's none of our business when it's going to reach fruition. It is our mission. It is our obligation to be the conduit through which the universe works in this earth realm. When we were told to dominate, that was it. So without permission, without desire from Elohim in physical form, nothing changes. Because we are Elohim in physical form, we know that we are in this world but not of it. And our functionality being outside of this world, meaning outside of earth consciousness, our functionality is based upon how we desire or how we determine to follow the instructions of the ancestors. If you are not receiving anything, you are, but if you don't realize that, then just be quiet. Don't make it up as you go. If you feel it, if it resonates, say it. Ask the question. If it does not resonate, leave it where it is. We are in the most critical times that we as Africans have ever faced since the Europeans stepped foot on the continent of Africa. We are in a critical phase of the journey that we embarked upon years ago. This is not a time for us to become academic about what's happening, neither are we to become political in explaining what's going on. All of this is spirit. And the idea of our depending on religion to resolve this is never going to happen. If we don't bring resolution to it by virtue of our spiritual actions, it will never be resolved. And I do believe that it would definitely be resolved. If for 3, would you save the city? If for 1, would you save the city? So what am I saying? Just as it is said that the father of spiritual nations raised the question with the messages that was within it, speaking concerning Sodom and Gomorrah, just as the message was, for 1, we will save the city. I'm saying to you that if only one of us is left standing with the resolve to see this through, regardless of what we have to sacrifice, inclusive of our life, if only one is standing, it will be resolved. However, the more energy that is brought together in unison with the same goal in mind, the easier it would be to do this, to bring this to fruition, and the easier it would be to exert spiritual power over this chaos, bringing it to a state of order without that European mindset being in control of this world. Questions concerning anything that I said, and if after those questions, I will ask Charles to repeat his. Are there any questions or comments at this time?
Pastor, I just want to say, Arshay.
Thank you. Audrey?
You were saying we either need to, basically you were saying pick a side.
Yes.
Is that like being lukewarm?
Yes. Absolutely.
And what does that mean exactly? That if you're lukewarm and get, I guess the scripture says, I will spew you out of my mouth or whatever. What does that mean exactly?
Lukewarm means that you're playing both sides against the middle. You have one foot in each space, and you are afraid to be who you really are, just in case you need them, meaning those who are creating the chaos. It's like people who remain a member of a church because they want to have a place to have their funeral. Does that make sense, Audrey?
Okay, yeah. So you're scared of the unknown, so you play both sides.
Yes. And the unknown is the spiritual. So, any other questions? Ron, does that make sense to you?
Oh, it does indeed make sense. Yes. I like where we are. When you say it, I'm not the prayer, the meditations, all those things continue, and I was just thinking, what other actions are we to take other than your faith and being assured and knowing who you are. But I agree with you. I was thinking about something too. Think Vermeil that said about times repeating itself. I can't remember how she said it, but
History repeating itself.
it's repeating itself. What I thought about, or what I said, was I have a theory on that. My theory is this: I think Nick explained it better though when we talk about the stars and the planets and all the constellations and all the things that we've observed in the last few years. And some of those things you don't see for hundreds of years or thousands of years. And then at that one period, we saw a lot of stuff happening at the same time. I believe that cycles happen in the earth until there's someone that can deal with the energy. Your desires, your movements, your faith is what brings those things about. And I think it is no coincidence that history does repeat itself. The energy is here for us. I believe that with all my heart. And so those are the kind of things I think about. I just want to make sure though that that we're not missing anything, that we see what we're supposed to see and do what we're supposed to do. But yeah, I do think the signs of the times. I thought was interesting with Jesus. What caught my eye was you had non-believers or people who were religious asking for signs of the time, and then you had those searching for truth asking for signs of the time. And I just thought that was interesting. That you know what was caught in the middle was the energy that we know or we have labeled as being Jesus, but it is really deliverance. It is really the search for truth, and that's why I kind of phrased things the way I did. But I just thought that was interesting, and I think where we are is interesting. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The reason both sides were asking for signs of the times is because religion was looking for a return of one of the prophets. And religion today is looking for a return of this entity called Jesus. However, the ones who Jesus was primarily speaking to was looking for truth. Show us what truth looks like. Show us where we are in our search for this deliverance. That's what they were talking about. As far as history repeating itself, we talk about history repeating itself when it comes to enslavement and European raids on the continent of Africa. Why is it that we don't talk about history repeating itself when we talk about the kingdom of Mali, the kingdom of the Kushites, history repeating itself? We need that energy of realizing that the history of the energy of the African kingdoms, the African kings. We need that energy to bring history to a place of repetition in that regard. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, it resonates.
We need this. History repeats itself with enslavement, with brutality, with mental illness, because there is no way you could do people the way they're being done unless you have a mental problem. And you are chaos itself because you don't realize or don't care about how other people suffer or how they feel. This whole thing about what do we do now, stay the course. Stay the course. Charles, repeat what you asked earlier, please.
Okay. What I was saying when John was on the earth and he heard about Jesus and he sent one of his pupils to ask him, "Are you the one, or do we have to look to another?"
The question that we ask ourselves is that question. Is this entity called Jesus the one? Or shall we look for another? Is this entity, this man called Jesus, is the one? That's the question that religion raises, and that's the question that we have been raising. And the answer is the another, the one that you're looking for is you. You are searching for deliverance to deliver you when you are the deliverer. So if you are not the deliverer, how is it that you are going to be a deliverer? Or how is it that the energy of deliverance can perform what it was brought into the earth to perform? It cannot be executed. It cannot do it itself. That energy is for us to embrace as a mechanism for opening the eye of humanity and bring balance to humanity. There is no other. If you don't look in the mirror and see who you are, there is no one else. If you don't stay the course, if you're not true to what you say you believe and who you are, then you are always searching for someone other than you. And I have been there. Why me? Why is it that I'm being shown what I see? Why is it that I'm talking to these people who are in these churches and I'm not seeing what they are seeing? Why is it that I'm being ridiculed by the ministers who challenge everything I say but cannot prove me wrong in anything I've said? And then I hear a voice. Why not you? If it were not you, you would be asking the question, why is it that someone else is doing this other than me? Don't ask, is there another? Don't ask, why me? Because the answer is before you. You are the another, and you are the one. Embrace it. If it doesn't resonate with you, do some soul searching. If it doesn't resonate with you, that there is no God, there is no Elohim other than Elohim. And if that is the case, there is no Elohim other than you. Embrace it. You cannot function properly in the realm of the spirit if you don't embrace it. And you cannot speak the words that the ancestors are giving us if you don't embrace it. The fear of saying that Jesus was married was a test case until I was shown that there was no Jesus. The idea of a divine birth is not so. There was no Mary, there was no Jesus. This story was based upon Isis and Osiris. Osiris being chopped up, Isis finding the parts, except the penis, and bringing into life a child without the male, without male sperm. That story is talking about the cosmic mother from whose womb all of humanity came into existence. And that story about Jesus and Mary and Joseph, all of that was taken from that story, and it was made to be something literal. When if you interpret the scripture literally, as the sages say, you're literally a fool. That is not what it's saying. You cannot say that everything in the scriptures is spiritual and then turn right around and say Jesus and Mary are literal. Abraham is literal. Either all is spiritual or it's not. Simply because it's been manipulated doesn't mean that the truth of it has been milked out of it. Because the truth cannot be milked out of anything. The blanket of literalism has covered it. But now we are removing the blanket and uncovering the spiritual truth that's in it. We can allow ourselves to say Ashe or Amen about things that you know doggone well is not true. When you hear that message come across that pulpit on that TV or on your phone, and you know that you're hearing the same thing you've been hearing since you were a child, you know doggone well it's not the truth. So why do you say amen? Why do you put yourself in a position to say, I agree with that when you know it's wrong? That's a question you have to answer. And that response you get will determine whether or not you have truly embraced the essence of who you are. These are critical times. And these critical times calls for those who are willing to place all of it on the line for humanity. Questions, comments? What are your questions in reference to anything that's been said this evening? Not only by me, but by anyone.
Hey, Pastor, this is Charles again. So what you don't say and what we don't heard, it puts you back in the position where Moses went back to the people and then told the people which side you want to be on. Do you want to be on this side or the other side of the river?
Actually,
and then the people made.
Charles, hold 1 second, please. That was Joshua.
Okay. Joshua, okay. And he told him that. When he told him that, so when the people choose that day, and did the one that choose the other side die? That's on where I can put it. And the one that choose the side that he was on kept walking in the faith.
The response to that, the answer to that, Charles, is this. Those who refused to submit to the spiritual deliverance of Elohim died spiritually. And those who embraced it looked in the mirror and saw that the deliverance that they were looking for is them. And the Elohim that does the delivering is them. But those who chose not to do that are the ones who were steeped in religion. And we do not have the authority, the right, or obligation to look at those who chose not to embrace, to look at them as they are less than, because they are not. Simply because they chose not to open the eye or allow the eye to open for them to see, we are not to condemn them or look down on them. We are to embrace them. Because the only reason they are doing what they are doing is because they don't know any better. They want better. They want balance, but they don't know what it is. And because it cannot be literally explained, or you can see it physically and immediately because of that, they find it difficult to embrace it. And these are the ones who we put spiritual truth in the macro for. We put it there for them. When their backs are against the wall and they cry out for deliverance, they cry out for more. The energy that we put into the macro is available. And they embrace it even though they don't understand it. It doesn't matter whether they understand it or not. What matters is that they trust it. Does that make sense?
Yes,
I
sir, and
see.
thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
Audrey.
what doesn't make sense is if that conceptual thing called Jesus said that when we recognize who we are and we take on that Christ consciousness, we can do greater things. So if we can do greater things, why would we sit around waiting for Jesus, quote unquote?
Yeah. That has been one of the major
Yeah.
contradictions.
Well, yeah, but the church doesn't teach that we can do greater things. It teaches us to wait on Jesus.
Well, when you ask, what are those greater things? No one gives you an answer.
Right.
So I'm here to tell you what those greater things are. The power of deliverance is living, is life itself, because of the energy that delivers. The greater thing is for us to look for our Creator and, in search of the Creator, taking the time to stand before the mirror that our ancestors is holding up before us and seeing that the Creator is you and you are it. And the deliverance could only come from you. That's the greater thing, bringing balance to humanity. There is nothing greater you can do than to lay down your life for the brethren or for your friend. Laying down your life is not relegated to a physical death. Laying down what you thought was your spiritual essence, laying down what you thought you were or who you are, laying down the principles that never did anything for us other than sustain us for such a time as this. All of our ambitions, aspirations, desires to be comforted and comfortable in this society in a material way must be abandoned. The reliance must be on the universe for sustenance, for continuation of this journey, for continuation of messages that are given to us that we not only hear sometimes, but feel the experience of receiving and not knowing what it is until the box is opened, until you begin to open your mouth and speak, and then you know what the ancestors have said to us. No more prepared messages, because the messenger has prepared you to be the message. Waiting on a message simply keeps you silent and motionless. When you are the message, you're always moving, even when you were asleep. You're always bringing humanity to a place of stability, even when you feel unstable because of what's going on with you. Trust who you are. Trust the ancestors. Look at the ancestors. For millions of years, the ancestors have kept us alive. Through all of the filth that was in those ships during the European slave trade, not the Atlantic slave. The Atlantic Ocean didn't enslave nobody. During the European slave trade, the ancestors kept us alive, whispering in our ears, regardless of what they say about you. There's greatness in you. You came from greatness. That is the reason is you could not submit to enslavement. Africans never accepted enslavement. They endured it. The questions that you raised about the scriptures that led you to where we are now was the ancestors taking our hands and walking us through this minefield of injustice and lies to bring us to this road that guides us to peace, to harmony, to justice, to righteousness. The ancestors have shown us hate immobilizes you. Love expands you. Anger causes you to make errors. Silence in the face of adversity gives you a way out of that adversity, even if you don't see it. They are not with us to lead us into a place of harm. They are with us. They are with us to keep us calm in the midst of the storms that are taking place around us. They are with us to keep the eye open and the eyes closed. They are here with us. So we hear with the clarity the spiritual truth that we are searching for. Close our ears to those things that diminishes us, realizing that we cannot possibly be diminished anywhere other than in our thoughts. The ancestors are saying, simply because the thumb is on you, simply because you have been miseducated, simply because you have been manipulated and you have been brutalized, it doesn't mean that your greatness has been beaten out of you. You made it across the ocean. You were strong enough to endure the trip across the ocean and the perils of slavery. in the face of lynchings, men skinning bodies of Africans to make shoes and to make bags. You survived. Why? Because you're God. God can't be killed. We are the voice, says the ancestors. We are the voice, not so much of reason, but we are the voice that translate wisdom for you so you can understand who you are. So you can see the mission that lies before you and understand that the mission is not just for you to free the African, it is for the African to free humanity. Hold on to that. Hold on to that. If you focus on freeing yourself, no one else gets freed. Bringing yourself to the mirror and seeing who you are is your deliverance. Now that you see it, bring the same energy to others. Don't worry about what's happening in the streets of Los Angeles. Don't concern yourself whether it is a blue state or a red state. It is the month of June. It is the month that you have been shown that chaos will rise from the covers and present itself visibly, that the deconstruction of this country will become more clearer than ever. This is the month. This is the time frame. Don't bother yourself with wondering why it was this month. It was this month because we declared it. We have the authority to make declarations, to translate the scriptures for the benefit of humanity. Let no one tell you that the ancestors that are not talking to you. I'm hearing, let no one tell you that we are not with you. We've always been there. But you were not always there. You were not always in the place that we occupy because your eyes were controlling what you see instead of your eye being the only reliance of sight that you have. That is why the scripture, when it talks about seeing, it talks about perceiving. It's not talking about you seeing something physical. It's talking about perceiving something is there, perceiving the power of it. That's what the ancestors are talking about when they allowed the words to be written. These are the concepts that they were given to us. What are we going to do with them? What are we going to do with them? They are the source of our life. They are the sustenance of our being. And because that sustenance maintains our life, we have the authority to maintain the life of humanity. There is nothing more powerful than the ancestral spirits that guides us. So fear not. Fear not. And I hear these words, fear not, my children. Fear not. Love and compassion surrounds you. Empathy abounds with you. Truth is your primary goal. Truth is the fence that protects you. Nothing can penetrate your heart unless you allow it to. You were born for such a time as this. Let no one take that away from you. You were born for such a time as this. No energy forces of any world government can do anything to stop this force that's moving as we speak. I'm done. Questions? Are there any questions or comments?
Pastor, I have a comment. This
Yes.
is Evelyn. While you were speaking, I felt the prayer or the mantra of Ho'opono, Opono, Opono. And it's a mantra that they do in Hawaii. And it says, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And it says that this mantra, which is a way of resolving problems and restoring harmony by acknowledging and taking responsibility for any negative thoughts, actions, or emotions that may have contributed to conflict. But that resonated with me when you were speaking about the responsibilities that we have. And it's time for us to stand on business now. And that prayer, that mantra came to me. I felt that it resonated with me, and I thought about it while you were speaking. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. We are not creators of conflict. We are creators of compassion.
Evelyn, when you were speaking, that resonated with me too, what you said, but in terms of the ancestors, in terms of our connection with the ancestors, because, I mean, a lot of us still may feel like we're not quite there in terms of, you know, being guided by the ancestors. But I feel more and more and more like that was the missing link, because when I think about ancestors, and I think about, because they are my parents, they are my grandparents, they are my brothers and sisters, they're people that I know and who know me. And when I think about it like that, I know that they only want good for me. They only want the best for me. They're gonna help me when I need guidance. So I think your prayer about I'm sorry, thank you applies to the fact that we haven't acknowledged our ancestors in the past, and that because we sort of got back to the beginning, now we know, and now we can acknowledge them and lean on them and accept their guidance. So I thank you for that, because I think it resonates with me deeply in terms of connection to the ancestors.
Arshay.
Ashe. I just received a shared message, and the byline is the U.S. military is set to temporarily deploy 700 Marines to Los Angeles. This is the beginning of instituting this Insurrection Act. George?
Yes, I just, wanted to comment when Vermel mentioned in terms of history repeating itself. And I think tonight, as we, meditate on what we're hearing and what is being said, it is written, something that I read, that history has one honorable purpose, is to teach the student to be a responsible handler of power. From the spirit of a Kabbalah, from the waters from the east, traveling to the west, I believe that, we are in a realm of history that not that we overlooked, but we're spending time spiritually receiving to be able to change that history in terms of what we were taught, but more importantly, the history of who we truly are. And so I think that it's a very, awesome time to be living in. And so when, like I said, Ramel mentioned what she did, we see it, in that aspect of how the creator is now giving us to us to realize how powerful we are. I want to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Ron, I'm
Hey,
done.
Rep,
Yes, Charles.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
I know we are the children of God. We've been taught that, and I understand that. But who are the adopted children?
First of all, let's understand something, Charles.
Okay.
We were created by Elohim, right?
Yes, sir.
In the image and likeness of Elohim. So we are Elohim. Okay? Are you with me?
Okay. I'm with you.
There is no way in the world that an African can be an adopted child of the Creator. When every human on this earth came from the womb of the cosmic mother, the African mother. There is no way that anyone could say that we are adopted. However, we can say that all the offspring who have gone by the wayside and chosen to walk a different pathway must be brought back into the fold. And because they have walked a different pathway, this idea of adoption has nothing to do with what we call adoption today. This is the power of embracing your children. This is the power of embracing humanity and bringing balance to humanity without regard to the pathway that they once traveled. This is the story of what is called the prodigal son. It doesn't matter what pathway you chose, Trump, Mitch McConnell, Joe Biden, all slave masters. It doesn't matter what you chose. You came from the womb. We came from the womb of an African, and you came from our DNA. And we are going to bring balance to humanity because we are responsible for humanity. Does that make sense, Charles?
Real sense. Real sense.
And it doesn't matter whether you're Chinese or Japanese. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. We embrace you and we seek to bring balance and peace to you. Even if you resist it, it doesn't change who we are and it does not change our mission. What are the questions you may have concerning that? Any comments on that?
I don't have one.
Thank you. Ron?
Okay. Excellent evening. Lot to absorb. Let's if there are no more questions or comments, we will pause for the evening and resume again Saturday.
One more question before we leave.
Yes, sir.
The reason I'm asking all these questions, when I do reading and stuff, and I get to thinking about it, and I want more answers than what I have read and what has been told to me. So I thank you, Pastor, for clearing a lot of stuff up that I asked. And another thing, as for everyone that have a Bible, when they get in spots of reading it, it's best to bring it here and talk it out.
Thank you. I agree.
Thank you, Charles.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, I'm grateful for tonight. I'm grateful for all of you for your presence. I'm grateful for all that have been said because we all are one, yet many. And it was just a blessing to be able to hear in the spirit from everyone. Thanks for letting me share my thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Okay. Beautiful night. Thank you, everyone. Your energy, your thoughts, your words. Thank you. Your wisdom. Yeah. Very comforting. We will see you Saturday. And please, if I think a lot has been said this evening, if you go back and listen to it, or if you have any thoughts or questions, love to hear it. Love to hear from you or hold them till Saturday, okay? Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Take care, family.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Good evening, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Evening.